Did you know that Jerome Lester Horowitz, better known as Curly Howard, was not initially part of the Three Stooges? Intriguing, isn't it? This curly-haired man who could make anyone roll on the floor laughing was not always a part of this iconic comedy trio. Born as Jerome Lester Horowitz, he would go on to adopt the stage name that we all know and love, Curly Howard. Despite his later fame, his journey to stardom wasn't straightforward, but don't fret. As we all know, Curly Howard, with his high-pitched voice, unique expressions, and unparalleled physical comedy, soon would become the most popular Stooge. Now let's dive into the life of this comedic genius who made us laugh in ways we never thought possible. Born on October 22, 1903 in Brooklyn, New York, Jerome Lester Horowitz was the youngest of 5 Howard brothers. Yes, that's right, the Jerome Lester Horowitz you know and love as Curly Howard. The Howard household was a vibrant one, filled with laughter, love, and a whole lot of chaos. Imagine 5 brothers, all with their unique personalities, growing up together. It was a wild ride, to say the least. Young Jerome, or Curly as we fondly know him, wasn't just a jester, he was a bit of a Renaissance man in his own right. A lover of music, he could strum a melody on the violin as easily as he could light up a room with his infectious laugh. His passion for music was matched only by his love for sports. He was quite the athlete, showing early signs of the physical prowess that would later make him a standout Stooge. In the heart of Brooklyn, Curly's childhood was a mix of school, sports, music, and of course, pranks. Lots and lots of pranks. The Howard brothers were known for their comedic antics long before they hit the silver screen. Curly, with his high-pitched voice and unique expressions, was often the ringleader of these early adventures. He had a knack for making people laugh, a talent that would serve him well in the years to come. Growing up in the early 20th century, Curly's world was a simpler one. There were no smartphones, no internet, no social media. It was a time of neighborhood games, radio shows, and silent movies. But even in these early years, there were hints of the comedic genius that lay within young Curly. His quick wit, his physical comedy, his ability to turn any situation into a laugh riot, these were all signs of the Stooge to come. Little did young Jerome know his future would be filled with laughter and fame. Before joining the Three Stooges, Curly didn't have his sights set on a career in comedy. Yes, you heard it right. The man who would become an icon of comedy was not initially inclined to tread the path of humor and laughter. Jerome Lester Horowitz, better known to us as Curly Howard, had a different vision for his life. Curly was not born with a rubber chicken in his hand or a seltzer bottle at his side. He started his career with ambitions that were, shall we say, less slapstick. In fact, he was more interested in music and sports than in pratfalls and pie fights. He was an accomplished ballroom dancer and a talented basketball player. But as fate would have it, the world of comedy was destined to claim him. When his brother Shemp left the Three Stooges, Mo Howard, another Howard brother, was in a fix. He needed a third Stooge, and who better to fill that slot than their own brother, Curly. Although initially hesitant, Curly eventually agreed to join the team, and thus began his journey into the world of comedy. Curly's unique comedic style became his signature. His high-pitched voice, his physical comedy, his unique expressions, all were unlike anything audiences had seen before. He didn't just tell jokes. He became the joke, turning his entire persona into a comedic spectacle. His wild antics and infectious energy were impossible to ignore, making him the most popular Stooge. Curly had a knack for improvisation, often coming up with some of the Stooges' best gags on the spot. His comedic genius was not confined to a script. It flowed from him naturally, as effortless as breathing. And it was this improvisational skill, this ability to turn any situation into a laugh riot, that made him such a standout performer, and so the world was introduced to the unforgettable character of Curly Howard, a man who, despite not initially setting out to be a comedian, ended up becoming one of the most beloved figures in comedy. A man whose unique style and improvisational genius left an indelible mark on the world of humor. A man who proved that sometimes the best comedians are the ones who don't plan on being funny at all. They just are. Curly's fame skyrocketed with the Three Stooges, but his personal life was not as jovial as his on-screen persona. As one of the Three Stooges, Curly Howard had become a household name. His high-pitched voice, physical comedy, and unique expressions had audiences splitting their sides with laughter. His improvisational skills made him a standout, not just among the Stooges, but in the realm of comedy as a whole. His fame was meteoric, his popularity unmatched. Yet, behind the scenes, Curly's life was far from the slapstick hilarity he presented on the screen. His personal life was tumultuous, marked by a series of marriages that ended in divorce. It seemed that the laughter he so easily evoked in others was a melody he struggled to hear in his own life. And then, there were his health issues. Curly's robust physical comedy was a notable part of his act, but it was also a strain on his body. The physical demands of his performance took a toll on him, and his health began to decline. It was in the year 1946 when the unthinkable happened. Curly suffered a stroke, a devastating blow that ended his career. The world of comedy was left reeling, its brightest star suddenly dimmed. Yet through all of this, Curly's comedic talent never waned. His ability to make people laugh remained undiminished, a testament to his resilience and dedication to his craft. Even as his health declined, he never lost his ability to bring joy to audiences worldwide. In the face of personal struggles and health issues, Curly Howard remained an icon of comedy. His performances continued to entertain, his spirit undimmed by the challenges he faced. The laughter he brought to millions served as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times there is always room for joy. Despite his personal struggles, Curly's comedic talent never faltered, and he continued to bring joy to audiences worldwide. Curly Howard, of the iconic comedy trio The Three Stooges, faced significant health challenges in his later years. After suffering a stroke, he married Valerie Newman in 1947, who was described as the only one who truly cared for him. Despite his declining health, they welcomed a daughter named Janie in 1948. However, Curly endured another severe stroke in 1948, leaving him partially paralyzed and reliant on a wheelchair by 1950. His health deteriorated further, and he was admitted to various healthcare facilities for treatment. In 1951, his condition worsened, leading to mental deterioration, and he was moved between nursing homes. Eventually, Mo Howard, Curly's brother, and fellow Stooge, transferred him to Baldy View Sanitarium. Despite efforts to relocate him for care, Curly's health continued to decline rapidly. He was no longer the curly-haired Stooge who could make a room erupt in laughter with a single facial expression. But he was still Jerome Lester Horwitz, a man with a heart as big as his personality. He'd left an indelible mark on comedy, and his influence was evident in the generations of comedians who followed in his footsteps. Tragically, Curly passed away on January 18, 1952, at the age of 48, marking the shortest life among the Stooges. He received a Jewish funeral and was laid to rest at the Western Jewish Institute section of the Home of Peace Cemetery in East Los Angeles, alongside his family members. His departure left a void in the world of comedy, a void that could never be filled. It was the end of an era, the curtain call for a comedy legend whose laughter still echoes in our hearts. But let us not dwell on the sorrow of his passing, but rather celebrate the joy he brought into our lives. His legacy endures as one of the most beloved and talented comedians of his time. Curly Howard left the world much too soon, but his legacy in comedy lives on. And with that, we conclude this entry into the Pantheon. Thank you for watching.